Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the World Championship Series. We are going into the finals, the playoffs for WCS Challenger Season 1 of Europe. My name is Fear Dragon. That's what my parents named me so that I could fit in with the other kids. I am joined here by Nathan Yas, who is also named that to fit in with the kids. What's up?
Yes, not much. I'm great. I am unbelievably excited. It is 5 in the morning here in Burbank. That's right. Well, you know, I brewed the strongest possible cold brew that I could and drank about half a liter of it before coming here this morning, just so I wouldn't be a zombie for you guys. So when my body gives out after the broadcast, I will enter a stasis for 12 hours, and we'll begin with America again tomorrow.
That's
at normal hours, though.
Yeah, for normal hours for North America, but all you Europeans out there can enjoy some StarCraft a little bit earlier than usual. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not familiar with Challenger, we do have a pretty awesome format here that we've been sticking with for a while now. 16 players managed to qualify for WCS Challenger up until this point. 8 players have managed to make it past that first group stage we've been playing out for the past 2 weeks. And now here we're going to decide who is that regional champion for Europe. Nate, who do you think the regional champion is going to be?
So I'm going to be the old guy up in the castle, Robert Baratheon, that never does anything anymore. You know, I've put on weight now that I've had my success. And I'm just going to say Serral because he's the guy. He's the classic. He's the original flavor for best non-Korean players. And I want to see Raynor upset, but I'm not giving him an absolute drop of confidence until I see him. I want to see him break it down on the dance floor. So that's how I got so excited for today. That's how I got so awake, because we've only got good matches, really.
This is true.
And it's TvZ, right? It's a buffet. It's a buffet of a parfait of TvZ. You've got souL versus Serral. That's our first match, and there's like 2 more TvZs coming up after. So can't really ask for too much more than that. But yeah. Anyway, to answer your question, Serral.
That's not a bad guess. And of course, as we take a look at the prize pool, we will notice that we don't have any photos of Raynor on the dance floor just yet. But if he is able to break it down properly, he will have his chance at $1,600 for first place. All of this money totals up to $10,000 total for just Europe, and another $10,000 for North America that we're going to be doing tomorrow as well.
And don't forget, of course, this event, you talk about prize pool, you're like, oh, well, this wasn't winter so much bigger, but this is a build-up for WCS Spring. That's going to be taking place in 2 weekends' time.
Yeah.
And that's going to, so it's not just the prize money, it's not just the WCS points, it's also going to be impacting the seeding for that event, which is going to end up being a big deal when you guys tune in and you're like, why is Serral playing all the easy players at the start of the tournament? Well, it's because he won Challenger.
Yeah, and of course also the top 4 players still going to get that seed into WCS Spring and have their flight and travel and all of that stuff paid for.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about those 4 matches that we were mentioning before. Nate said that there were a lot of TvZs, and we're getting started with 3 TvZs back-to-back. Serral versus souL, Euthermal versus Raynor, and Hero Marine versus the Laser. And finishing things off, we still got some Protoss for you guys. We got Showtime facing down versus Petite Drogo. Nate?
Fear Dragon, I did not eat breakfast today because I knew that there would be, and this is going to sound weird for 5 a.m., but a barbecue. I'm looking for it. Bring out the sriracha. Bring out the sweet baby rays. Let's get it. I'm expecting a lot of cooked drones.
You are spicy today, man.
Either that or some overly seasoned Marines. And by that, I mean parts of Marines, since the acid from the banelings will melt away probably most of their bodies. But whatever's left over should also be delicious. And yeah. Oh, I'm so ready to go.
Just the stew.
You know what they say. It's like hunting deer, right? You got to make sure you get to the Marine before the stem completely goes through their body or it just ruins the meat. Anyway, we're loaded in to start the first series of the WCS Europe Challenger Finals. In the top left, we have the red Zerg player. You either love him or you hate him because he's just that good. He's Serral. There's no in-betweens. You don't just like Serral.
640K.
God.
That's such a great number. And starting down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have the blue Terran player. He goes by the name of souL. Team Makers.
Now, after struggling a little bit last week, let's see what the Night King can get done this weekend for your dragon. Perhaps a redemption arc is in store. Command Center first, though. I'm going to do it. I'm going to spoil it. So we've actually been seeing a bit more of this. Look, I didn't get any sleep because I stayed up to watch GSL, so you guys don't have an excuse either. We did see CC first opening like this in GSL. If we get the fast gas, it's actually it's weird because Command Center first gives you that expansion so quickly that there's not really any pool first build that kind of messes with it. The Command Center is almost always done.
Right? It's you finish the Command Center so much faster that normally a pool first, if you're going for a Rax expand, the Lings get in, they maybe poke away at the SCV, they slow things down, but like you were saying, you just finish the Command Center, you just lift off if the Lings come in and you're fine. It's actually easier.
Yep, and the thing that a lot of Terrans do, so normally back in the day, you would go Command Center, then you'd go Barracks, Barracks to wall off. But now we see it's that Barracks, Gas, straight into the Reaper, and you just kind of follow this up like it's normal Reaper expand, except your Command Center, it's not it's so weird because it's less greedy, like you said. You can't cancel this, you can't really delay it. Maybe if you were drone rushing, but well, we're not on the Americas region yet, so the builds so far are they're going to make sense for a while.
Yeah.
So the SCV Scout on top of that, and I love this. I love seeing the SCV Scout. We've had more and more of this popping up. I don't think it's as necessary because he is going to get the Reaper, and his build doesn't really change based on what his opponent's going to do in this scenario. And I only say that because the Reaper is already out, so unless he was worried about Lings that would be on the map, the Reaper would have run into whatever was going to be coming either way. So it gives him maybe a 20-second heads up. Not the end of the world. I like the SCV Scout, so I'm not going to bash him for it. Whoop. One cheeky little Ling does slip in. Yeah. But that Mule, he's a thick boy. He's going to be fine.
Depots are raised in time, and there's the Scout, but he's actually delaying the factory from landing on that reactor because he wanted to let the Ling in, but the Reaper kills that off. Can do his good old lift around swapperoo. I do want to really quickly talk about these players. Now, if you have been hiding under a rock somehow, you may not know that Serral is the undisputed God King right now of the non-Korean scene. Even though he has been looking a lot more mortal lately, and of course Rainer was able to win WCS Winter over him, he's still the guy to beat, like Nate was saying before. But I think souL is that guy that I have been waiting around for. I think a lot of people have been waiting around for, saying, hey, this guy's really good, but whenever it comes to WCS, not quite able to perform. But this group stage, I mean, he did really well. He was able to beat Lambo twice in some really, really convincing TvZ. So I'm not saying that in a best of 5, I'm extremely hopeful about souL being able to defeat Serral, but I actually think this is probably his best chance that he's had so far.
Yeah, well, if there's one thing that's kind of come up when we talk about weaknesses, by the way, it looks like Serral's going to go for like a Ling Ravager or Roach Ling attack based on the setup that he's going with. He's got a lot of resources to get those Roaches out, but Serral's weakness is, generally speaking, been from Terrans that can execute mech builds pretty well. Terrans are kind of where you can get bopped. There's not and that's partially because we talk about really good Korean Terrans. There's not too many good Terran players in the non-Korean scene. Doesn't have the wall up yet.
Well,
awkward moment there.
I mean, the Roaches are going to take some time to make their way across the map.
If the Roaches were, I was going to say, yeah, if the Roaches were already there, that could have actually just been game immediately. But this type of build, he's going to get a Banshee, so he's getting a safety Banshee, and I really like this. So there's no cloak. This is the sustained damage Banshee. I'm going to try to protect my natural expansion Banshee, but I think there might be too many units to keep it away. With no siege tanks, I'm very concerned.
Yeah, I feel like he must have noticed something because he's staying so defensive with those Hellions.
All he needs to do is kill the Hellions with the Roach Ravager, and the Zerglings will win the game because there's way too many links for the Banshee to kill everything.
Yeah. I love that he's firing down the Ravagers, though, because it makes it so much harder to knock down that wall. You can see that souL bought himself some time, but now the SCVs are going to start going down. He can afford to lose a few over here. The bunker is also going to be extremely helpful. The Hellions roasting and toasting a lot of those Lings. The Roaches, they're working away at that bunker. They're getting it low, but the repair is actually staying a little too strong.
Yeah, this is it's unfortunate. The Hellions are just not really good in this situation. That's why the Roaches get added to this comp so effectively. 17 SCVs and opening up with a great Ice Spear through the sky to knock this natural expansion down for souL. He's still alive, but I mean, you know, it makes me think back to the first Harry Potter movie. It's a cursed life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He'll never be whole again after this many Lings and Roaches enter your
He does have his third CC done, so it's not as bad as it could be, but it's still a pretty tough spot being down 25 workers in this situation.
On the flip side, his 1-1 has started, and there are no evolution chambers for Serral. So he doesn't have upgrades. He's starting the Evo chambers now, and as you said, 3 command centers. No Terran with 3 orbitals is ever out of a game. So there's definitely solid comeback potential here. I do feel that Serral did more than enough damage to put himself significantly ahead. His economy is really going to pay off. Look at all these barracks doing nothing. He doesn't have the money to run the production. He's trying to get the upgrades, he's trying to get his medevacs, and I do think that in situations like this, prioritizing that 1-1 is maybe one of the best moves, because if there's one thing we can say about Terran games where comebacks happen, it usually does come off the back of sticking to those upgrades despite economic losses. If you want to see one of the greatest meme games of all time where heavily upgraded bio dumpsters an infinite endless torrent of roaches after a Terran loses all of their workers, MVP versus Tefl.
Oh man,
it never gets old. Never gets old. It's one of the best examples of that statement ever. And I could go. Ooh. There's another one that's a really good example of that as well. What is it? It was Hart versus someone on Frost.
Oh my God, you are throwing back some really old matches right now.
I'm just trying to think of games where Terrans lost most of their workers and just came back and won. But actually, souL's in a better position than both MVP and Hardware, except he's not Korean.
So I want to note that as we move forward, with Combat Shields and Stim are both done. He's got his first 2 medevacs. He does lose the Banshee over there, and look at that creep spread for Serral. This is where Serral's mechanics really shine, because normally in this kind of situation, maybe a Terran player says, okay, well I got Stim and Combat Shields and 2 medevacs, I can get some damage done. This is where I start to power on through with my 1-1 finishing up, but Serral is so prepared, he's always in position. So souL basically has to go for a more direct attack with his siege tanks and everything if he actually wants to make his way through.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about Serral's skill. He's so good with that aggression. He made a really good attack work there, but also his mechanical follow-up. The creep blanketing the map like a blizzard fear dragon. And souL may have to turn up the brightness settings on his monitor to be able to see once he tries to push onto that creep.
We do have some units making their way along the north side of the map. The double medevac is unloading up there. Sniping up some of the creep, and this is the closest I would say souL's been able to get to an actual hatchery thus far, but the queens are already in position again.
He got a screen and a half away. Yeah. So close, yet so far.
Well, it looks like he's just going to go directly over the Overlords and try and unload in the main base, but he sees his roaches and ravagers there too. Serral is everywhere.
This does not look fun for souL. It's like, well, it's like, what did you get done so far this game? He's like, well, I lost all my workers, and I spent half my scans clearing out creep tumors by bases that didn't have anything there. Oh, no. Did he? Okay.
Oh my God, that medevac is so close to death. One hit point.
Yeah.
Well, they say that last hit point is as important as any other hit point.
That very true. That could not be, no. Imagine if you were at 1/150th of yourself, but you still completely functional. What a thought.
You know, I've always wondered what StarCraft would look like if the more damage,
if we had realistic damage.
Did.
Yeah, people say we don't need a StarCraft 3, but I'm like, that's the only thing that I'm like, you could go further with some of this stuff. So a lot of it doesn't need to be changed too much or improved too much, but I'm like, that's the next overhaul I want.
Almost got to snipe off on a pretty full energy queen over there, which would be nice just because, again, sniping off some of the creep tumor. I think that the creep spread is pretty phenomenal overall, but I have to say that there's not exactly a ton of creep tumors per area, right? It's very thinly spread. So if he is able to snipe off a couple of these creep tumors...
That's the problem. The only thing that we can talk about is souL trying to train his army for creep tumors.
Yeah.
He hasn't done anything.
We're grasping at straws on that. Yeah,
like, I'm not trying to hate on him, but I'm just saying, based on the way that all the damage he took early on, and with how good Serral's map vision and control has been, He's literally only pushed for creep tumors.
He's on Hive. He's getting. He's
Ultralisk's about to come out. Adrenal Glands is almost done.
That is okay. That's a little bit nuts right now. Serral is just skyrocketing forward in this game. I don't even think that souL is playing poorly. souL is trying really hard and really well to try and get damage done.
Fear Dragon, I gotta say, I really like Serral in this matchup. And the other problem is I think souL is just, he's one of the taller characters, so he can't be the one to defeat. He can't be the one to defeat the Night King. I'm sorry. That's just not how it works.
Oh, God.
He gets a battle scene, but he's, it looks like this map, he may go down swinging as Serral just has so much. And by the time he gets through this wave, there's no reinforcements.
Oh, those
great blinding clouds on top of the siege tanks. Piles are going to come down on them as well. Planetary Fortress is not ready yet, so this base will fall as well. The Banelings roll themselves towards the Marines to buy time, and the Ravagers say sayonara after they pick off that command center. 66 Zerglings following this up.
The Medivacs also pulled back to try and help defend, so they weren't doing any counter damage during all of that. Instead, it looks like he lost all those Marines.
This is it. This is his moment. All the Banelings are going to be replenished now. He can push out and get a bunch of the creep tumors, but is he going to be able to get the Banelings? So far, so good, but the bots are going to come in. Serral just has so much. He's not even going to wait for all the Banes. He's going to directly engage this army, blast down the siege tanks with Corrosive Bile, and say, yes, bring your Marines onto creep without support.
souL, you're going so far onto creep, and this is why you have to be careful about that. You cannot focus fire down that many Banelings. There's more Banelings than there are Marines now, and souL is going to get run over.
Coming in behind this. Serral with a very strong start. Takes game number 1, G to the E to the G.
You know, Nate, I was hanging around in Zombie Grub's channel yesterday, and she was going over the WCS groups and everything, and of course she's back there in the green room right now. And some wonderful individual said in chat, you know, is Serral going to retire? Like, he seems pretty washed up now. You know, he got a 2nd place. He got a 3rd place before. I don't know. He's just not looking that strong.
He's only made like $20,000 this year, Fear Dragon.
Only still the best non-Korean player undisputed right now. So I don't know, you know. We'll have to see.
There are a lot of people in chat probably disagreeing with you. And Raynor may be the same height as Maisie Williams. So I'm just putting it out there.
But has Raynor broke it? Oh, I've actually never seen this screen before. Wow.
We got the
recaps. We got the. I mean, I guess we did see this during WCS Winter, but
following through the open plains of Kairos Junction, we see the Terran being literally eaten alive as the roaches and lynx surround his bunker and all of his SCVs. There were no survivors.
What would you have done differently as souL in this defense?
In his defense?
Yeah. If you knew this was coming a bit earlier,
if you know this is coming, you don't build Hellions. Like, he walled off the front. Yeah. Like, if he goes for like a tank or 2 instead of the Banshee, just the sustained damage is really nice if you can deny any high ground. Because another thing that we miss out at the start of this game is a Viking to clear out the high ground vision. So my brain kind of goes back towards a little bit of what we saw in GSL last night, actually. I think going for a fast tank in TvZ is not bad, but this is also one of those types of things that, you know, if you scan or you use you move the Hellions out really early, you'll see that there's no. So if the Hellions go to the front of the 3rd, you'll see there's no evolution chambers, there's no lair on those bases. If you scan the main, there's only a Roach Warren. There wasn't anything there for Serral if you scout and you look at what he's doing.
He did seem to get some information at some point because he had a completed bunker by the time all of the units actually made their way over. So maybe it was just the number of things or something.
That was never going to be enough. Is the thing. And he didn't have a bunch of Marines because he used the barracks to build the tech lab that he used the starport on and the reactor. I think there were only like 2 Marines or something in that bunker. It wasn't completely full when that push happened. And Hellions are just, frankly speaking, garbage in that scenario. The Hellions are never going to be able to get it done because with that many Zerglings, you have to do so much micro with those Hellions. And then there's Roaches. And then you remember that there's 10 Roaches and 2 Ravagers.
Yep.
So it's one of those scenarios where if you go straight for Banshees really fast, then you can get something done. But that's also a consequence of doing Command Center first into 3 CC. Like, great build, I love it. But the only thing that's going to save you is maybe like 2 bunkers with more Marines, like use the reactor from the barracks to make a bunch of Marines and get a tank out, and then do your 3cc double eBay, because then you're safe. But he just did about the greediest version of that strategy that he could, and it cost him everything.
Okay. Well, we're going to be moving on to Port Alexander as we start up in the, of course, this good old map with Serral sitting up 1-0 in this best of 5. Remember, this is a best of 5. It's best of 5s for the entire way through the bracket until the grand finals. souL asking for a pause, just kind of questioning, okay, what do I actually do against this guy now?
He's like, pause. Guys, I'm still playing versus Serral. I thought I was supposed to get an easier opponent now. Not the case, unfortunately, for
That's
souL.
tough, right? Your first match is against Serral. I actually, are there really many good wins here in terms of who you get matched up against? Because, like, you look at, Thermal gets Raynor, right? Raynor beats Serral. Looking really, really strong right now as well. There's players like Showtime, who's also looking back super in form right now. Hero Marine also topping out his group. Yeah.
No, I think the best part about this challenger bracket final that we have today is that all the matchups are really good. All the players are really good. All of these games should be great. And I look forward to seeing Hero Marine's series next, his TvZ, because I think that he's been stepping it up a good bit lately. His games have looked better and better. souL, I like souL, but he's just too damn tall and handsome to win at stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it would be too good to have him go up on a stage with that face and be like, yeah, I won, baby. You know what I mean?
It'd be too much reward for the audience.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
He is going to go for the Command Center first opening again. This goes back to the whole discussion that Nate and I had about game number 1. But Serral did go for the pool first this time. So you guys will actually get to see in action exactly what we were talking about, where the Lings are going to pop out, but the Command Center is already done.
It's about to finish. Like, there's no scenario where he can do it. Like, and what's funny is it never necessarily was either, because we have had, and okay, you guys want throwbacks, Marine King on Ohana, like 6 or 7 years ago in GSL. He went Command Center first, and the Zerg 6 pulled, because it was back when you only had 6 workers at the start. And it was actually one of the sickest games, I think,
Nate,
probably ever broadcast. But even then, the principle still remained that, like, doing it early enough like that, there's some weird stuff you can get away with. You can make it happen, no matter how fast the Zerg tries to get those Lings in your base.
Nate, I know you miss Roddy, man, but you don't have to, like, try and become him. He's like, I actually have an eidetic memory of video games, too.
No.
It's amazing.
I'm just trying to...
You have a good memory, though.
I'm trying to step up. I'm trying to be better.
I'm impressed. So the Lings are going to be sitting over there in the corner because they know at this point that there's not really a lot that they can immediately get done. So they're waiting for the Reaper to leave. But the Reaper's just staying at home because souL already doesn't really trust Serral about this. He hasn't scouted, but he kind of just suspects, okay, I haven't seen a whole lot so far. I haven't seen your Overlords really that much. It's just sitting behind that mineral line. 2 workers getting killed is definitely... 3 workers getting killed for those 4 Lings is definitely not bad, though.
Yeah, I mean, the real worst case scenario here is that, I mean, like, losing the SCV sucks, but look how fast the third is. He sees this command center again, by the way. Like, with a reactor landing, slap down the Roach Warren. Boom, you know what I mean? Like, you can go straight for the Banshee again, but it would end up being the same thing. And the map layout is so similar to Kairos Junction. I could see it working again. Not that he'll do it, but I'm just letting you guys know, like, there's that same amount of information that he had last game to make that call is available again.
Are you supposed to have already started your wall at this point? Because I know a lot of the time when you see, like, Terran players that go there for the fast third CC.
Not if he's going to wall with the E-Bays, no.
Okay. Oh, yeah,
he wants to build them at the same time. Like, 2 engineering bays and a depot will probably do it here. You also have to be careful because you can't use a bunker in the wall in that scenario. Otherwise, 2 E-Bays and a bunker, you can't move through that. You can have none of those lower into the ground or lift off.
Bailey Nest is on the way. Just more drones being added on. Serral got up a decent number of Lings to help deal with any Hellions. And it's not all the Hellions that are moving out right now, because souL, again, this is the first real scouting information he's actually gathering at this point. Overlord comes in and sees additional barracks being thrown down. So Serral knows it's not going to be the mech memes that he has to worry about.
This is definitely nicer for souL, though, like when we compare. Obviously, he hasn't been attacked, lost everything. These Lings will catch... a little bit there. I was actually really nice. I thought souL was going to lose everything.
Yeah.
But I think maybe is it more or less scary that Serral isn't going to delay anything, right? He's just going to go into his lair now. He's going to get his upgrade started. The Lings grab one of those Hellions. So he's going to get a macro game versus Serral that he was looking for. And he's going to get away with his, you know, greedy, quote-unquote, economic build. His upgrades will be behind, so he'll never have like an upgrade advantage, because I don't think that Serral is going to get stuck on lair tech very long unless we see something very different out of him. But he doesn't even have a Roach Warren. So this could just be like maybe Lingbane Hydra or Lingbane into Muta. You never know.
Yep. I really hope for souL's sake that he is able to at least make this game close, if not win this one, because if he goes down in game number 1 because he gets all in going for this build, and then game number 2 he just gets out macroed or something in this build and it doesn't work out, I don't even know what you go for in game number 3. It's like
Mech is Serral's Achilles heel. Do it. Seriously, Cyclone Hellion.
That's how we saw Cameron do well.
You do Cyclone Hellion, and you actually can't spend all your money on 5 factories, so then you do the Gumiho thing. Build 3 starports in the back of your base, switch the map to year 0 while you're at it, and as soon as the Zerg player finally has enough to kill your ground army, teleport 12 battlecruisers onto their army.
Oh, yeah.
Seems legit. As long as they don't already have 40 Corruptors out, you're good.
Yamato the Broodlords. Always
That's
fun.
really good strategy, though.
I know.
Yamatoing Broodlords is really effective, and then your ground army can kill everything.
We've non-jokingly, we've seen more and more Terran play. You know, that's actually one of my favorite developments about TvZ lately is that battlecruisers have actually just become a legitimate thing again.
Terran are finding their, and we're seeing this more and more. I really enjoyed watching the last GSL final as well as Super Tournament games because Terran players, we all have this habit of, we're not very creative, to be honest. We watch a Korean player do a build that wins once, and then everyone does it for the next 5 years. Meanwhile, trying to grab this tank with these Lings would be really sick. That's a really good pick. But meanwhile, you know, Zerg players have very unique styles. Protoss players are all over the place with their builds. Like, very few Protoss players you'll see just doing the same thing as each other, outside of maybe just like the Stargate into Archon drop. But
yeah. Do want to know, like you said, that big tank pick-off was really, really nice because that is half of the tanks. The Banshee is sitting at nearly dead hit points right now, so the Queen should be able to snipe that off pretty quickly considering there's no cloak or anything, and there it goes.
He had Lingbane set up on both sides here. He pre-set up this flank. Those Banelings were waiting on the south side the whole time. Still able, because he's off creep, to micro well enough to not lose the bio there.
He does take one big Baneling hit there, though, and there's still a handful of Banelings left over. Here we go. More Banelings come rolling on forward, and they do snipe off a decent chunk of the Marines, but most of the Lings have also been picked off now. There's 28 still left over. Banelings being morphed in again. Serral trying hard to defend that 4th base location. He has not been able to get on top of that 2nd siege tank, which does siege up, and another one should be rallying across the map now.
And he's going to just bowl this over, jump on top of it. The Banelings actually all detonate on a tank, so the Marines are able to get a lot of work done, still fighting off creep. Serral,
that last
I mean, these engagements have actually not been that good for Serral. None of his Banelings have really been able to hit pay dirt. Now, he still hasn't lost anything economically, but an Overlord getting popped there. He's supply blocked. No Overlords in production, so the Banelings need to clean this up. So far, they do.
Yeah, that engagement on creep allowing the Banelings to get all the connections that they really need, and this is now going to be a much nicer position. There are still some more Marines and tanks rallying forward, and more Banelings are only just now starting, so souL has some time to clean up some of the creep spread, hope for it, or wait for it to recede a bit before he pushes in further, but wow, he is really just going to dive in over here. He feels like he doesn't have that much time to wait, and I guess he's right because the Banelings are about to finish, but I am a bit worried right now. Is this going to pay off, or is he just going to be overcommitting here?
Yeah, well, he's kind of been rallying everything down, and when you do this style as a Terran versus Zerg, you run the risk of, well, I was going to say, the Zerg can just counterattack and kill you if they catch your reinforcements. The Mutas do that, and GG. So Serral up 2-0 now in this best of 5. I'd like to see him switch it up. So back to the point that I was making before that fight. We've seen a little bit more build variation. Like Terran players are starting to think outside the box. The Raven versus Protoss has had a huge impact on all of the games where we see Terran players make good control between the anti-armor missile, interference matrix, and that is, you know, the thing is we're still not even really seeing that Raven usage yet versus Zerg, where you don't have to worry about stuff like feedback. Like you can get abducted and such, but you still almost always going to have time to throw some things down. So there's opportunity for a lot of exploration in that department, and
I really love
the battlecruiser thing, especially. Like the power of a Terran tech switch when Terran is the least known race for that type of thing is, in my mind, becoming an integral part of the meta game down the line, because we're seeing people, you know, it's been, you only expect that Terran can do one thing, which is just build Marines. But when they have another option and they make good use of it, that's when the game gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah. I love that short period of time where a lot of the Terran players are making the Raven and using it for creep spread cleanup and everything. I do want to note, by the way, in that last game, you can see over here that all the engagements you just saw before, souL was actually doing pretty well for the most part off of creep. But as soon as he moved on creep, that's when all the big Baneling hits and everything came in.
I'd also like to point out, we were showing during those highlights, you could see his worker count was at like 48-ish SCVs. So he was taking the fourth. He had a third, but he wasn't really saturated. He wasn't banking any money. He was making just enough money to sustain that push, and that can be fine if he gets damage done. But since he didn't, after that army gets cleaned up, it's like, well, the Zerg player has 30 more workers than me, 2 more bases than me. I can start building more SCVs now. But then by the time I get them, there will be Ultralisks or Broodlords or, you know, Ice Dragons all over the place.
Nah, I'm with you. And I have to go back also to that one tank pick off that Serral got earlier on. Like, imagine if that first push comes in and there's 2 tanks over there to focus down more of those Banelings. He takes slightly better trades, keeps a few more of those Marines alive, and then he's able to get in on top of the actual hatchery. That's when he starts getting damage done.
Yeah, I mean, like on Kairos Junction, if you can delay the creep and get tanks by like the 3rd there, I see where tanks are very useful, but I feel like we're going to see more Terrans that are playing bio kind of go back towards mines. If you
do love
tanks.
your mines.
I mean, drilling claws with that. A lot of people don't give enough respect to the fact that the mine, despite everything, with drilling claws is so much better than it used to be because it builds, I think, 7 or 8 seconds real time faster. Like mines just build a lot faster than they used to.
Yeah,
and they are.
You can make them from a reactor and everything.
I have seen so many siege tanks do very little in battles. They take more supply, they cost more resources, they take longer to build. And they're not invisible.
What do you think about the pool first? Considering, I mean, souL's not opening up.
StarCraft really doesn't want to lose a game to a proxy Rax.
That makes a lot of sense. I was gonna say because
we've seen this a lot actually, even in I think the GSL matches, like versus like Alive, we saw Zerg player going for this. Pool first is just becoming a very normal-ish thing. I think the more curious aspect of this is that there's not a gas with it. So he's just saying, this isn't a crazy good Reaper map, so I could just defend with Queens at the start, and then maybe take double gas to go into like a Roach timing or something else. But yeah, I like this bit of variation here from Serral, and he's just gonna get the 4 lings. It's not command center first.
Oh, the Roach Horn, yeah. This is gonna be that Roach push you're talking about. So, like you said, it's not a command center first, and I think, you know, as much as you're saying the early pool is not great versus CC first, the Roach Ravager push works out pretty well versus CC first usually, right?
That comes, well, even that still comes back to Terran scouting. Like, Terrans for the longest time weren't doing SCV scouts at all, and then enough Protoss players started doing like the proxy second gateway that it kind of became really important to be able to scout. And we still don't see it as much versus Zerg because most Zerg cheeses, well, they suck, Fear Dragon. They're not very good. If you're not getting Nidus rushed, which doesn't hit fast enough that you need to SCV scout for it, that gets weird. But because they didn't go the command center first, you're like, oh, Nathan, he opened with units faster, so that should give him a better defensive advantage. Like, no, actually, if he had started this command center a minute ago, it would already be done. Instead, now he's got to deal with lings. He's got to pull SCVs down that ramp. None of those workers are mining. And guess what he needs? Resources, because we got roaches coming.
Yep.
Now, there's no ling speed, by the way, so there's not going to be a flood behind this like we saw in the other game.
He just saw the roaches also with his Reaper that he's controlling behind all of this. Now this Marine, though, going to be taking some damage. So even one Marine going down, no. Does keep it alive.
So look, he's building a bunker in the main. He could have built it in the natural if he wasn't dealing with those Zerglings, and he could have tried to hold his expansion. Instead, he will be able to finish the command center, but it's highly likely he's going to have to pull back. We have a Cyclone being made. And I gotta tell you, The Cyclone with the lock-on can kind of bully the Roaches, but there's micro that the Zerg can do here. And he doesn't have Magfield Accelerator. Magfield Accelerator takes 3 years to research. I get a degree in that time.
I mean, these are all the Roaches and Ravagers that are coming. It's just drones behind this. So Serral has been transitioning out of this for a while
I love it.
now.
Yeah, it's really intelligently done because the Overlord gives some high ground vision for him to put pressure on. Like getting a depot, I think, is cash, but he's preventing the natural from being used at all. And this is just very awkward for the Terran because you want to be building like depots up front. You want to be getting your infrastructure together. You need that gas to push your tech. But instead you just get stuck. That bunker is going to get killed. And suddenly these Roaches and Ravagers are looking a lot less like a poke force and more like a kill squad.
Okay, and now we got one of the Ravagers getting taken out over here by the Cyclone. The second Cyclone not able to get that lock on. It should be able to lock on that Ravager and pick it off now and slowly whittle away at these Roaches. But I mean, this is already just so annoying. Even these Roaches killing off 4 workers and forcing a bunch of lost mining time, delaying the landing of the starport on the tech lab, getting a scout on everything. This is all great for Serral.
Serral had full information. He sees everything during this as well. And there's a couple of trends that we've had. It's been Hellion openings from souL. At some point, the Zerg probably thinks to himself, well, he's not going to go Command Center first every game. So I'll be able to get like a side swipe with the Lings done maybe on the smaller map. And he was able to execute that flawlessly. Should be able to get this Overlord for souL. His factory's kind of derping over there. Is he not going to go for it? No.
Cyclone could just go down and get it. That's pretty safe for that. Especially since he knows there's no Zergling speed or anything, so nothing really going to chase him down.
The worst case scenario here is you go out to get that Overlord and like 30 Speedlings surround your Cyclone, and then you're like, okay, well, he was going to follow up all in me and I was going to die anyway, so Cyclone wouldn't have actually been the difference maker in that scenario. Banshee Cloak's about to finish, but there's already Spores up, and yeah, I don't really like Banshees versus Zerg all that much anymore.
They're so used to it defending against it now?
Yeah, Zergs are so used to defending, and especially if you play against European Zergs who just love to build lots of queens. Like, I don't remember the last time that I saw Banshees used versus Zerg, and I was impressed. Like, you get an early Banshee or 2, and like if a Terran has 2 Banshees at home when like a Roach attack or Ravager attack hits, then you're like, well, yeah, great defensive job here. But tanks could have done the same job, and Banshees just have such a hard time getting anything done with the range of the Spores and the Queens and whatnot.
Yeah, that's definitely true. We do see Zergling speed finally finishing up there for Serral, and souL scouts that out by losing the Cyclone, which is moving across the map. Serral also pokes up the ramp and sees just a small number of Marines, but he also sees the double engineering base, so if you had any doubts about this going into bio, if you didn't see the tech lab on the barracks or something before researching Stim, he definitely knows now is going to feel good about the fact that he's getting up his Carapace upgrade, throwing down the second EVA chamber, probably going to go for some melee.
Yep. Makes sense. And to provide a counterpoint, by the way, mass Banshee strategies are fun and can work, but that's because at that point you have enough to actually punch through the healing of the Queens in their range.
Which we might get to see tomorrow or something with Amasa, because he does love his good old Hyperflight Rotor Banshees.
I think the key to success for Terrans today is build variety and army composition variation.
It reminds me of Protoss, the Protoss ideology.
Yeah. That's what I was touching on that like earlier, but I think that if these guys all just try to do 3 command center, double eBay, bio builds, like I don't see it doing enough. Like you have to open up with one of these weird armory builds or like these crazy aggressive styles, kind of knock them off kilter and then make it questionable as to what you're switching into, and then I feel like you get a really big edge versus the Zerg. However, this is maybe not so bad for souL because he's getting siege tanks up, the Marines are going out on the map, the anti-air capability is not crazy, but if he gets a good amount of tanks with these upgrades, he can actually defend against a Roach attack, and just Roaches isn't going to cut it, but maybe Serral's going to try to go for what he did in Game 1, get a bunch of those Roaches, go Ravager, Ling, Bane, and just, you know, throw army after army at him.
Yeah, you definitely is going to want to get something done earlier rather than later on with these Roaches. So, I mean, be able to defend against the first wave of aggression there. The Marines are going to have a hard time on their own, but they're going to be able to get some creep spread cleanup. The reaction for those Roaches is a lot slower than, say, just Speedlings.
Yeah, and it is a little bit scary, right? Because he took his sweet time getting this Baneling nest. It's still not done, so he's a ways off from having Bane speed. So even with that creep spread, Baneling speed is an extremely crucial upgrade. He's relying on Ravagers and Roaches to defend with the Queens. Which is okay, since souL is not at that, we usually say like the tipping point where Bio just mows this down without Bane support is about 160 supply.
Well, he also, his armory is only just now finishing up, so he's not super fast.
Oh yeah, he couldn't start. Yeah, you're right. He couldn't start his +2 upgrades. Great spot there, Fear Dragon.
Well, thank you. We did see, I think that was a 5th base being started up there. Wow, so Serral going into a pretty quick 5th base right after his 4th base finish. And his Hive going up. He's feeling very comfortable on a very heavy number of drones. But +1 weapons finishes up just in the nick of time.
If I open that replay, I am fuming.
Oh, this is going to be frustrating for
I saw it wiggling. He was upgrading. Nah, I swear it, I got the upgrade.
Yeah, it's the fun moment where you're not even sure whether or not you got the upgrade or not, and then he's gonna later click on things and say, ah, damn it.
Yeah.
You did finish it. Well,
at that point, we might as well call Rotterdam because it's going to become full tilt StarCraft. We got Marines cleaning up some creep towards the front. That drop is still in the main. The one by the natural does get cleared as well.
Serral is just he's picking off everything right now. He still hasn't really lost any drones, any of their harassment. Loses some overlords and some creep here and there, but look at this. This is so good.
souL has lost a decent amount. What has he got to show for it? He killed an evolution chamber that finished an upgrade, and he killed an overlord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty much that and maybe a few lings here and there. But now the Baneling nest is finished, and he's got Baneling speed almost done, so he starts morphing in some of those Banelings. souL is finally getting ready for his big normal push out, but he's not going to have 2-2 for this.
He needs to get something done now because the Vipers are coming out. The Hive Tech is going to have a huge effect, and like Vipers are going to, you get a couple Blinding Clouds on these siege tanks, and shout out to the Widowmine that can still shoot while in Blinding Cloud, but these siege tanks are not going to have a good time, as we've already seen in that last game against the Vipers.
Well, gets a bunch of the Queens. That actually is a pretty nice start.
That's huge.
Yeah, remember there's not, oh god, these lings. They're going to shut down all those SCVs over at that 4th base.
Oh my god.
coming down on top of the Medivacs. He does get them as well because souL is a little bit too spread out, dealing with the lings and now dealing with the main engagement. The siege tanks are sieged up. But where are the Marines? They're all gone. All the tanks are going to get cleaned up by these Roaches and Ravagers, and Serral dominates the engagement. He's got his Hive Tech. He's got those Vipers that didn't even need to get involved in that fight.
Talk about an anti-timing. Right after that terrible, terrible engagement, 2-2 finishes.
Yep.
So he's not at his full strength with the upgrade. He's going to start to split his army up, and Serral's like, dude, I've got units to throw at you for days.
And Serral's about to finish up his own +1 melee, so those Lings and Banelings are going to be hitting a little bit harder now.
Get Adrenal, Serral. Do it. Get Adrenal Glands.
He is going to be able to get some damage onto this hatchery. He's going to focus very down. He might be able to get it.
Yep, he YOLO's down on the hatchery. He is able to pick it off. It will immediately be rebuilt, but very good grab there. Going to throw a Parasitic Bomb, just guarantee that damage. You can do as much as you want in this situation, but since you just want to get rid of the Medivacs, there's no way to get rid of Parasitic Bomb. So when you're out on the map like that, he's going to be doing a guaranteed damage. There's a Blinding Cloud. One cloud hits 3 tanks, and they all die. Banelings are just going to keep on rolling, rolling, rolling.
Yeah, and even though these Banelings are getting picked off there, souL taking okay trades versus the Baneling specifically. He loses all of his tanks. He's lost a lot of his SCVs that were mining at that 4th base earlier on, and he has 1 tank left. He just has 1 tank, and he's just relying on Marines and Medivacs to try and get damage done, and it's not working out as well as he would like.
Nope. Sensor Tower is going to finish. souL's going to get himself some vision. And it's really hard because it just feels like souL's weathering a storm. Like he is that guy. He's like the generic like jacked dude in the movie that they're like, yeah, you're gonna fight against this guy to train, and the hero character's like, oh yeah, well, this really isn't a problem. Doesn't matter that he's big and strong.
He's just come back from his
He
big
doesn't have
training
plot
montage.
armor. Yeah, he doesn't have plot armor. You know what I'm saying? Like this is just like souL is trying to do so much. And Serral's just like, nope, sorry. It's like, he's like, this isn't even the important match of today. We're not even close to it.
God, Serral is just looking so good right now. Any doubts that anyone's had about his form or anything after the WCS winter stuff? No. Serral's looking so strong right now.
I was going to say the only way I see him losing is if he just like baits himself into bad fights off creep, but he has everything that he needs. Like he gets the blinding cloud on top of the tank and the bunker.
He just keeps
the Marines busy. Blinding cloud. Yeah, and exactly. You're right. Keeping the Marines busy. You might say, oh, wow, great micro. He didn't get hit by the Banelings. It's like, Roach Ravager Link killed everything at that third base.
Yeah. Didn't actually get the command center, which I guess is a win there for souL and holding on, and he did keep a good chunk of the Marines alive, but losing 15 more workers.
I will say this. He had too many SCVs. He's down to 64 now, which is the ideal number. Ooh. So actually, Serral may lose because he opened up too much supply for his opponent to get a big enough army. I'm really reaching here, if you guys can't tell.
Okay, well, the Banelin's going to come rolling on in. There's another blinding cloud on the one of the last remaining couple of tanks there.
It's not over yet!
Okay, the Ravagers get more of the SCV, so the Planetary Fortress is not going to repair it anymore. Down goes the 4th base, and Serral has been able to defend his 5th base during all this. So now it's 3 base versus 4.
He didn't see that command center, but he's just going to float that one back. Now, Ultralisks are coming out, more and more Lings.
It's nice that souL was able to get up at least 3-3. He was staying on top of those upgrades, but there is the adrenal glands also that you were talking about. Chitinous plating has finished up, so his Ultra is going to be at those full upgrades with +3 armor already done as well.
Fear Dragon pop quiz, no cheating. How many Overseers are on the map right now? Guess.
0?
Yep.
Okay, Widow Mines
would be cool. Did you know there's an upgrade that costs 75 minerals and 75 gas, and it makes your mines invisible. Also, did you know that Widow Mines are not affected by Blinding Cloud?
Yeah, you know.
That's true.
I did learn that earlier.
Widow Mines eat at the best restaurants. They wear the freshest threads and they hang with the coolest guys, all right? You wouldn't talk smack about Widow Mines behind their back.
This Widow Mine propaganda, man. This Widow Mine propaganda.
Look, man, I mean, I can see the value of siege tanks early, but Serral makes them look so bad.
How fast he gets a Vipers.
The tanks do nothing against Serral.
Oh, God, he's getting a Nidus Worm, too, because he's like, you know what, just in case I have trouble breaking you, I'll still break you.
Yeah, he's like, all right, well, you want to shore up the defenses here? That's great. Now I'm going to make it even harder. I'm going to be forcing you to pull your units back. Like, with this many tanks, like, it is good, but the problem is, like, this is basically like the cherry-picked profile picture to make him look as good as possible. If he tries to step out on the field with this army, it's going to be really hard to keep the tanks that spread out so that the blinding clouds can't catch them, so that abducts don't pull them apart from the sides. But Serral's going to just push in again, tries to drop some biles. This may be the worst fight that he takes in this game since there are some Liberators sieged up here. Ultralists don't care, though. 16 SCVs picked off, more biles, kill the Liberators. Banelings crashing into siege tanks, doesn't matter. This base is cleared out completely by Serral.
And now the Ultra is just going to be tanking a lot of the damage there. 24 workers going down. souL's down to 33 on top of the fact that he had lost that early command center. He's rebuilding another one. He did snipe off all the Vipers as well, which is a pretty big win there. But the supplies tell the tale. Nate,
yeah, I don't think it matters.
Down at 90 supply.
When your opponent has this many units throw at you, do it. Do it, Serral. It's not even necessary anymore, but do it.
I want to just like blinding cloud of barracks at this point because I think he's far ahead enough. He doesn't even need the Vipers for these next engagements. But here we go. Marine's going to unload on top of that Nidus Worm, but the Nidus Worm is going to finish up in time. It does unload some units. The rest of the Ultras and Lings and Banes clear up the forces at the front, and souL's down to 87 supply. GG!
Serral, 3-0. Does it. And
he looks damn good doing it.
He looked really good. I like souL. I think he's a good player, but I think if you're going to come into a matchup like this and you say, I'm going to fight the toughest guy, mano-y-mano, with no tricks, you are going to die. And that's basically what happened. That's the tale of this series. A good Terran played a great Zerg and tried to fight him on even footing. I'm sorry. It just...
Yeah.
I would have liked to see souL do some meme builds. I mean that as seriously as possible. If you're playing versus Raynor or Serral, you should. Maybe Raynor will do meme builds of his own so you can kind of punish him on that. But Serral is going to play extremely solid. If you want to play into the standard schmandard versus him, you're going to have a bad time. He played Bio 3 games in a row. He went 3 CC 3 games in a row, double
Two games in a row, yes. Third game he went Rax expand, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, he still went like 3 CC before he got the extra.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Like he did very greedy builds all series, which is basically him. When you concede the early game like that, he's just saying, Serral, I'm going to take you in the long game. Yeah. At which point, I'm like, so it's like you want to play late game versus Serral?
Didn't really work out that.
And then everybody in the diner laughs at you.
Yeah, and I know souL does have a pretty good mech style, so it's a little bit unfortunate to see that he just decides to go for the bio every single game, loses both the macro games and also the all-in games that Serral throws at him and kind of pressure and stuff. But regardless, Serral is still going to advance on 3-0 to the semifinals. Our first player to advance on there, and he's going to be facing off versus either Euthermal or Raynor coming up in the next match. Nick, that's such a hype match, and the winner faces Serral. That's also a hype match.
It's going to be such a good ZVZ Fear Dragon. I can't wait for it.
ZVT?
ZVZ.
ZVZ?
Yeah, Serral versus Raynor is going to be great.
Oh, yeah. Already predicting it. Well, you guys know Nate's thoughts. We'll see you guys in a little bit with that next Terran versus Zerg.